Welcome, food enthusiasts, to this issue of the Future Foodcast. I'm Pam Miller, your host, and I'm going to have a great time today with our guest. We have Kate Brooks with us. She's the Senior Vice President of Sales for the Calavo Prep Division, and she's going to tell us all about fresh food. Welcome to the podcast, Kate.
Thanks, Pam. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yes, here at the Future Foodcast, we love fresh food, and I know that's the whole space that you're playing in. So tell us a little bit about your company and then what part you're playing there.
Okay. Calavo is an almost 100-year-old company. It was founded in 1924. So couple of years, year and a half from now, we're going to have a really exciting celebration. Today, it's the largest supplier of avocado products in the world. So we're set up with two business units. We have our Calavo Grown division, which is all of our commodities, avocados, tomatoes, and papayas. And then we have what I'm responsible for, which is our Calavo Prep division, which is our guacamole and salsa business, as well as value-added fresh fruits, fresh veg, salads, sandwiches, all of that good food you can run into your grocery store and pick up for convenience and helpfulness in the kitchen. All the things that make shortcuts easier, but keep your food fresh and exciting.
Yeah, and the largest supplier in the world of avocado products. I just avocado and avocado products. That's really a big deal. People love avocado, and it's so good for you in all of the healthy categories. We're always hearing, how good it is for you to have those products. So that's exciting that you do that. And this is worldwide you supply?
We do. We have a healthy export business, both on the avocado side and the guacamole side. The products on our value added side are very short shelf life. So we want them to be as fresh as possible. So they're distributed almost exclusively in the US because as they come off of our lines, they only have 5 or 6 days of freshness and shelf life.
Yeah. Well, hang on just a minute. That's a really quick turnaround time. So that's a challenge that some other food producers or manufacturers, distributors don't have. Can we talk about that a little bit? How do you meet those time frames?
Our production model is described as just in time.
Okay.
So everything has to happen in a very specific time frame. We have a very short lead time on orders. For instance, if you're a customer of ours, you can place your order today. We are going to cut it, produce it tomorrow, stage it to put it on a truck, and it's going to deliver to your warehouse or to your store the next day. And this is where the magic happens, frankly.
Yeah, that's amazing.
The production is one thing. There's learnings in any of that, but the logistics is really what makes this business effective, exciting. Exciting,
I think is a generous word, Kate, but we'll go with that.
Absolutely. But what's really interesting about it, I've been in this business now for about 17 years. I can't envision doing anything else. There's a pace and a variety in the work I do in a day, and a purpose in what we do and how we deliver it that it, keeps me from thinking some days like, oh gosh, I'd rather sell frozen food or kitty litter or something that's not going to expire. Or as some people have called it, a ticking time. Our food sometimes is a ticking time bomb because you got such a limited window to get it on the shelf and get it into the consumer's hands.
Well, I appreciate you though, because I'm one of those people that goes to the grocery store on a every other day or so basis. I love to get the fresh food. And when I'm time crunched, I don't want to take the time to chop up my own fruit or whatever it might be, or maybe I want to buy the guacamole already made, and instead of starting with the whole avocado, for example. And so I appreciate what you do, but how do you do that production wise, turn around so fast? I mean, do you have big machines or what happens there?
There's a surprisingly little automation in what we do. I think as people envision how pineapple gets chunked and gets into a plastic container on the shelves, they envision a big machine that's chunking pineapple. It's exceedingly manual. So if you walk into our fruit cutting room, which I like to call Willy Wonka's fruit room, because it's beautiful with all of these colors and all of these smells and all of this activity. I think the average consumer would be really surprised to see how many people it takes to make that happen. And I have to give as much credit as possible to these team members of ours who are processing this fresh food quality and safety first in their minds. So they're always having to be vigilant, for what they're seeing and what's coming by them on the line. But that also takes place in essentially a big refrigerated box. So it's a 35-degree room designed to protect cold chain from, washing and receiving and cutting until it goes out the door. I don't think most of us can imagine standing around for 8 hours in a 35-degree room.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it takes a really dedicated team to make this happen on a daily basis.
Well, and I would say talented too. Cutting fruit is not an easy job. And I'm sure they've worked out all the best ways to do that, to preserve them as much fruit as possible and have as little waste as possible and all of that. But I really appreciate them. And one other thing you said, though, that's really important from a consumer standpoint is that safety piece. We all see in the news about plants or manufacturing facilities or facilities like your Willy Wonka cutting room that are shut down and it's because of a safety issue or some kind of health hazard. But what I heard you say was everybody's responsible for that in your facilities. That culture is not normal.
And it's interesting. I think it's changing. One of the very, very interesting shifts I've seen is a very heightened awareness about foodborne illness. If I think back 15 or 20 years, somebody would get sick with something, be it Listeria or Salmonella, and they'd be like, oh, I've got a stomach flu, or I ate something bad. But knowledge of these illnesses like Salmonella and Listeria and E. coli has really evolved. And the average consumer has a much greater grasp on what those terms mean. And so we do have to have a culture that its foundation is food safety and quality. In fact, when you walk in our facilities, any of them, the first thing that you see is a posted statement signed by our president and CEO with our commitment to quality. And it is as you walk in the door, it is the first thing that your eyes will find. And it's absolutely necessary for the success of our business. A food safety event could happen to anybody at any time, regardless of how vigilant you are and diligent in your practices. But we ingrain it from the moment somebody starts, no matter what level of the organization, from the warehouse receiver to the production team, to the management team, to the sales team, to the leadership team.
Well, and thanks for sharing that message, because I'm glad to hear you say that you feel like it's shifting a bit. Traditionally, it hasn't been as good, but you're right, in the age that we're in, with just-in-time news too, finding out about things, and we're identifying those things better and better and being able to track them back to the source. And that is really important, to have that whole safety piece in mind. And I'm so glad to hear it. Would I know that I'm getting a Calavo product if I go to my grocery store? Is your name on it, or are you supplying a lot of your sellers with, I guess, kind of unbranded product? How does that work?
So our business is largely centered around the magic that we can create in the store. The retailer wants you to believe that what you're buying was cut fresh in their store that day. So you'll see, if you look at our product, sometimes if you look at the back, it'll say distributed by Calavo.
Okay.
But more often than not, it's going to say distributed by retailer X. There are a couple of tips and tricks that would tip you off as to whether or not we made it or somebody else did. Like shrink bands are generally a common sign that it has come from somewhere else rather than in the store. But today we have very few Calavo branded products in the market. Most of them are private label for our retailers. Yeah. Interestingly enough, we are making a big push in the coming months to bring more brand awareness to Calavo. We put out a big marketing initiative in the late spring. We've been playing with new packaging and labels to really leverage the Calavo legacy that the avocado and commodity business has been able to drive on the prepared side of the business. So I would say to everybody out there, in the coming months, look for the Calavo brand on your favorite pineapple, because we're coming.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad to hear it. And like I said, I like to buy the fresh food all the time. Tell me about the commodity business. You said the avocado and commodity business. So there's a couple different pieces there, and you're really on the avocado side. What does the commodity side do?
Oh, well, so the commodity side is really all of our whole avocados, tomatoes, and papaya shipments. So doesn't get processed at all. If you go into your local grocery store and buy a whole avocado, that's the grown side of our business.
Great.
And we've had brand awareness for years because there's a little sticker on it, right, that says
Hmm.
Calavo. In fact, there's a gentleman who has worked in our business and is now retiring currently, but he had been with Calavo for 50 years and he was managing the ground side of this. He tells a wonderful story about in the 70s when people didn't really know what avocados were and they didn't have the popularity that they have today, right? Like avocados are really having a moment currently. They're a superfood and you see them everywhere.
Mm.
People would call the office and ask for 100 boxes of those Calavos because they didn't, avocados weren't a thing. So it's great stories and wonderful legacy that side of the business
Yeah.
has established to now lend to our value added and prepared side of the business.
I
We're
love
excited to really take advantage of their success.
That's a fun story. And yeah, you're right. I mean, on the prep side of the business, the food is prepped, obviously, but and the whole produce is on the other side. And that makes a lot of sense. I never have heard about, some kind of fruit or vegetable having a moment. So that made me laugh. I just like that. So as you have this prep, you have this short kind of just in time with the orders and getting the product to the retailer. And you talked about logistics being the backbone of the business. So can you share a little bit about how you accomplish that?
Frankly, in a day, I don't know how we accomplish it, but
Okay,
it
that's
gets
honest.
done. We do have a whole logistics team who's responsible for creating a network of freight lanes, both for our inbound shipments, because you can imagine if we're processing all this fruit, it's coming in on dozens of trucks a day
Sure.
to our various facilities, and all that needs to be coordinated. And then everything is getting processed and getting out the door, which requires a whole separate arrangement. Generally, our product is delivering it goes on those trucks in the late afternoon or the evening, and it's in the DC or the store by 4 or 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. So from the time we start to cut fruit to the time it lands on somebody's dock or on somebody's shelf, it's generally less than about 24 hours.
Amazing. Amazing. Now, with the pandemic, I know that buying habits changed a little bit as far as I know me as a consumer. I mean, we were doing more things online, maybe not going to the store quite as much, or what did you see with your business?
I hate to say that anybody benefited from the pandemic because it was such a challenging time in so many ways.
Mhm.
But our business did see some shifts in some unexpected ways. First and foremost, we went through that phase where there was a lot of unclear information about how the virus could be transmitted via food, right? So there was a big shift back toward packaged goods
Mhm.
because they seemed safer. The food couldn't be touched or handled. So we did see an uptick in our packaged offering, which had eroded a little bit in favor of people wanting to save money to cut their own food and to learn how to cut a pineapple. The other interesting trend that we saw is people got really tired cooking and meal planning and anything that they could find to create a shortcut. It was very interesting, right? In the first 90 days, I'm going to learn to make bread. I'm going to learn how to roast a chicken. I'm going to make, jambalaya from scratch, and I'm going to do all the prep. Well,
We were all
yeah.
so ambitious.
Oh, absolutely. We were all going to become the next celebrity chef, right? And with our own YouTube channel where everybody was excited to see us. Within about 120, 150 days of that, people had it. So any shortcut that they could find, whether it was to pick up diced onions, buy a mirepoix that was already processed, really was of help to them in terms of combating some of what we've called meal fatigue. The last thing was We do a variety of entertaining trays and platters designed to pick up for a party and all of those things. The thing we really didn't see coming was the increase in sales on those items. Because instead of, while entertaining went away, you could buy that fruit tray and it would be fruit for your family for a week. So you could limit your trip to the grocery store. You had fruit that you could serve. You had fresh vegetables that you could provide, which I think we envisioned that our tray and platter business would completely erode. But we saw it go the opposite way, which when we first talked about it was surprising. But then when you really kind of got down to it and talked about the reasons behind that, it made a lot of sense. People were scared to go to the grocery store. They needed, fresh food still to be able to provide to their family. And here it all was in one format, even though you might pay a little more for it.
Well, I bet that buying habit might actually stay once people realize that's a solution for saving some time and providing some fresh food for their family while limiting trips to the store. I mean, that, you might not lose all of the increase you saw or the change in the habit that you saw, because parties are going to come back too. I mean, people are getting together more. And so that piece of that business for that product is going to come back. It'd be interesting to see what the data shows moving forward.
It will be. For us, it was a great sales narrative. Like it's a good story to tell when we're talking to customers about ways to re-envision purposes for what they're providing, and different ways to label things, vegetable trays that say great for meal prep, or, here's 7 snacks for your Zoom schooled kid for.
Well, because people they are interested in, the children were at home, snacks are an issue still, and people's eating habits have changed. I know I spend a lot more time here in my home office than I used to, and things are coming back for me to be out on the road a bit, but still I find myself, rather than eating like big meals, I will have kind of healthy snacks throughout the day. And I'm sure there were parents and others who were home working that wanted to have some good choices, not just a bag of chips on the shelf. And that's a great solution. Your preps division products are a great solution for that. So that's really cool. Well, it is challenging, I'm going to say, like you said, not a shelf stable item that is just where you can ship it when you need to ship it and you have 30, 60, 90 days. You are make it less than 24 hours in the store, the logistics of that, plus the prep of that. I mean, that's an amazing story. I'm excited to know about it. I'm looking forward to seeing some additional products that you are going to have coming out our way. What else would you like our Future Foodcast audience to know about Calavo and about what you do before we go, Kate?
I think if there's anything we can share, it's the importance of a fresh, healthy diet. And, even if it's not your go-to, if you love a burger and fries, and I will be the first to admit I love a burger and fries, these products that we provide give a really easy alternative. You don't have to learn how to cut a pineapple, which is challenging. You don't have to learn how to skin a mango. You don't have to perfect your knife skills to dice an onion, but there's so many easy ways to incorporate these fresh and healthy products into your normal day, to establish what's being called as a more flexitarian diet, where you don't have to abandon some of the things that you already love and those moments where you just need to eat badly, but you can take these items and just throw them in here and there to give yourself the benefits, fresh and healthy fruits and vegetables, without a complete compromise on the way you like to eat. So as we think about our consumer, it's not necessarily the folks who are way on the other end of the spectrum with their eating habits. It's really about how do we influence the habits of the everyday consumer who has a wide range in their diet. So, if there's just 1 or 2 things that you pick up in the store as you're walking through the produce aisle, the benefits to your health and well-being are enormous, and you don't have to make big sweeping change.
Well, and I think the everyday consumer, the everyday person is really looking for those healthy alternatives, Kate. So I'm so excited to have you on, and so you could share Calavo's story with us. I think it's a great story of the company and what you're doing. And we look forward to the future. Thanks for being with us.
I really appreciate the time, Pan.
Thanks for listening to Future Foodcast. Future Foodcast is powered by Farm to Plate, the leading food blockchain platform. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to stay up to date with the very latest innovations in the food industry.